Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're standing at like a crossroads of information, a vast library of brilliant minds just laid out before you, waiting for you to unlock their most potent secrets.
Hmm.
That's pretty much exactly where we find ourselves today. We're embarking on a deep dive into it, well, a truly remarkable collection of sources.
Yeah, it's quite a lineup.
It really is. From the ancient wisdom of Aristotle and Cicero, whose insights are still, frankly, surprisingly sharp, to the motivational giants of our modern era, people like Dale Carnegie, Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek.
Indeed. And this isn't just a random grab bag of ideas. Our mission today is to explore the timeless art of persuasion and influence, but maybe with a unique lens.
Okay.
We're looking at how it impacts not only how we connect and, move others, but fundamentally how we shape our own minds, our personal realities, and then, in turn, the world around us.
So internal and external influence.
Exactly. We'll be drawing insights from classical rhetoric, obviously, but also modern psychology and some really inspiring stories of leadership and personal transformation, trying to synthesize them into something cohesive.
Right. So get ready for an enlightening and hopefully thoroughly practical deep dive. We're going to uncover how the words we choose, the beliefs we hold deep down, and the way we genuinely connect with others, how these can be the most powerful tools in your arsenal, giving you essentially a shortcut to being exceptionally well-informed on this fascinating kind of interwoven dance of influence and self-mastery.
So to really get a handle on the art of persuasion, I think we absolutely have to start at its very genesis, with the ancient masters who first really codified these human principles.
Makes sense. Where else would you start?
Right. Our journey begins with Aristotle's Rhetoric. It's a foundational text written, over 2 millennia ago? And astonishingly, it still lays the complete groundwork for understanding human motivation and argument today.
It's kind of startling, isn't it? How relevant it all still feels.
It really is. It's almost like he provided this blueprint for how we still think and feel and, how we're moved by others' words. So Aristotle basically gave us the first psychological model for influence. He broke down persuasion into these 3 core appeals. Logos, which is the appeal to logic and reason.
Right, the facts and figures.
Kind of. Pathos, the appeal to emotion.
The heartstrings.
And ethos, which is the appeal to the speaker's character and credibility.
Who you are matters.
Absolutely. And he understood that these aren't just abstract philosophical concepts. They're practical, interconnected tools that a skilled communicator absolutely has to master.
And he really dives into the nuances of each one, doesn't he? Like, starting with the power of language and emotion. Aristotle, I think it's chapter 13 of Rhetoric, he talks about how some things are naturally unjust even when no written law forbids them.
Interesting.
Which creates this fascinating gray area, right? It leaves room for disagreement, even about what justice actually means. Like, his example is taking a loaf of bread to feed a starving child, really theft, in the same way as stealing out of greed.
Good question. So it highlights how language, how interpretation is crucial even in things that seem legally or morally clear-cut.
Exactly. So it's not just about the facts, but the framing of those facts, the story you tell around them.
Precisely. And that framing relies so heavily on pathos, the emotional appeal. He emphasizes that the way a speaker uses language to convey character and feelings, he gets into this in chapters 7 and 8, is absolutely paramount.
Okay.
He states, and this is a direct quote, "Language appropriate to the feelings the things described call forth makes an audience sympathize with the speaker and conveys a sense of the kind of person the speaker is."
Wow. So it's not just the words themselves, but the emotional vibe they create and how that reflects on you?
Exactly. It's about the resonance, how those words subtly reveal your own character, your own stance to the audience.
So it's a critical distinction then. It's not about being overly dramatic or fake.
No, not at all.
It's about carefully calibrating your emotional expression. Aristotle even gives some fascinating practical tips here. He cautions that if a speaker overuses language laden with feeling, he can soften the effect by apologizing for it.
Interesting, like acknowledging you might be getting carried away.
Yeah. And intriguingly, he also suggests that harsh things can be more persuasive when said in a mild tone.
Okay, that's counterintuitive.
Right. It's not about theatrical performance. It's about genuine connection and understanding the subtle psychology of delivery. A quiet, firm statement can often hit harder than a shouted one.
That makes sense. Understated power. And he really drills down into specific emotions, too, offering almost a roadmap for how to evoke them. Take pity, for example.
Okay.
He defines it as Pain felt at a destructive or painful evil suffered by or about to be suffered by someone who does not deserve it. Simple enough. But here's the kicker, and this is, I think, a profound insight for anyone trying to move an audience. It's not universally felt. Pity, he notes, is felt by those who feel that they themselves, or those close to them, are vulnerable to suffering in the same way. But it is not felt by those who are wrapped up in their own present misery.
Wow. So if you're drowning, you can't really feel bad for someone else who's just wet.
That's a good way to put it. This explains why certain emotional appeals hit home with some audiences, but just fall completely flat with others. If you want to evoke pity, you first need to help your audience see themselves in the sufferer's shoes, or at least understand their own vulnerability to something similar.
Right. Without that connection.
Your appeal might just bounce off no matter how moving the story you tell is.
That's basically a strategic guide for persuasion right there. Find the shared vulnerability, that connection point. And speaking of shared humanity, Aristotle also discusses charitable feelings, right, in Chapter 7.
He does. He notes they incline people to help those in need and seek no benefit in return. Pretty straightforward.
But what's really fascinating here is his observation about the, quote, magnitude of a charitable act.
What does he mean by that?
He points out that its significance has reference to the need, even if the service rendered is small.
Ah, okay. So it's not necessarily about the size of the donation or how grand the gesture is.
Exactly. It's about how impactful it is relative to how desperate the recipient's situation is. A small act can be incredibly charitable, deeply inspiring if the need is great and the impact is, disproportionately significant.
So it emphasizes the intent and the impact, not just the scale. That's powerful.
Totally.
Okay, so moving beyond emotion, let's touch on the art of argument and character. This brings us to logos, the logic, and ethos, the credibility.
Right.
Aristotle introduces enthymemes. These are, they're like logical arguments where one part is left unsaid because it's just so widely understood.
Like a conversational shortcut in logic.
Kind of, yeah. It relies on shared assumptions rather than spelling out every single premise explicitly. But while logical reasoning is important, he stresses, and this is key for ethos, that precision of argument is never as important as showing oneself, to be honest.
So character trumps complex logic.
In many ways, yes. If your audience perceives you as trustworthy and honest, your arguments just carry more weight, even if they're not absolutely bulletproof logically.
We hear a lot today about fake it till you make it, or building a brand that can sometimes feel a bit manufactured. Does Aristotle's focus on genuine character, on ethos, kind of push back against that?
That's a great question. I think it really highlights a timeless truth. Authenticity, or at least the perception of authenticity, still trumps mere flashiness. If your audience doesn't fundamentally believe you, your most clever logic is just going to fall on deaf ears.
Makes sense.
And he then digs into the use of maxims. These are like universally accepted truths or proverbs. He says they're most powerful when the reason for what is being said is made evident. He gives the example. Being mortal, do not keep an immortal anger going.
Right. The maxim is the advice.
But the being mortal part provides that immediate, undeniable reason. It makes it resonate more deeply.
So basically, Aristotle was saying, even back then, don't just be that guy at the party quoting proverbs without explaining why they actually matter right now.
Chuckles. Yeah, pretty much. A fair point. But he also shows the incredible nuance needed here. For disputable opinions, you might frame it differently, like, it is right for a mortal to think mortal thoughts, not immortal ones.
Okay.
Or, intriguingly, he quotes someone arguing against the famous nothing too much maxim, saying, I don't care for nothing too much either, for one ought to go to extremes in hating evils.
Whoa. So even timeless wisdom needs context.
Exactly. It shows that wisdom isn't always rigid or one-size-fits-all. A good speaker needs to know when and how to use these nuggets of wisdom, sometimes even challenging conventional ones, to make a stronger, more relevant point. And underpinning all this trustworthiness, forming the very fabric of ethos, are the virtues he lists as essential to a speaker's character. Courage, temperance, generosity, greatness of soul, and practical judgment.
These aren't just like personal traits.
He sees them as active, persuasive tools for building credibility and demonstrating leadership.
So it's not just about being courageous, but maybe showing courage in your speech, perhaps by tackling uncomfortable truths directly.
Precisely. Or showing temperance by not resorting to hyperbole or emotional extremes. These virtues aren't just who you are, they're tools for making you someone worth listening to.
Okay.
Aristotle also explores what he calls pleasant things, which basically tap into deep human desires and aspirations.
Like what?
He emphasizes that honor and good reputation are among the most pleasant things because they make everyone imagine that he's the sort of person who has serious stature. We want to be seen as significant.
That resonates. We all want respect.
Absolutely. And crucially, this feeling is amplified when he believes the people who say so are telling the truth. And who are these trusted people?
Yeah.
Neighbors rather than people far away, fellow citizens familiar with them rather than people from somewhere else, contemporaries rather than posterity, sensible people rather than fools, and numerous people rather than few.
Oh, that's fascinating. So Aristotle, centuries ago, was basically reverse engineering what we now call social proof.
Pretty much, but with an added layer. Who provides that proof matters just as much as the proof itself? It's not just volume like number of followers.
It's the quality and relevance of the endorsement. How might that apply today? Like, if you're trying to build credibility or a brand in a totally new field.
That's a powerful observation. It suggests that while, tons of online reviews might be great, a single heartfelt testimonial from someone your target audience genuinely respects and identifies with could be far more potent.
Targeted authentic validation. Makes sense.
And in chapter 11, he makes this brilliant distinction between emulation and envy. This is a really key insight into positive motivation.
Okay, emulation versus envy. How does he define them?
He describes emulation as a certain pain at the apparent presence, with people of a nature like one's own, of good things held in honor and possible to get for oneself. Not because they belong to someone else, but because they do not belong to oneself as well. So you see someone like you achieve something cool, and it stings a bit that you haven't yet, but it also shows you it's possible.
Right, it's inspiring, not just resentful.
Exactly. He contrasts this with envy, which he calls a base passion, where you just wish the other person would lose what they have. Emulation, on the other hand, drives you to make himself attain good things.
That's huge.
It's a profound insight into positive motivation. You can inspire people to achieve by showing them what's possible, highlighting role models they can relate to, rather than making them resent what others have. It's about sparking aspiration, not stoking resentment.
That's a crucial distinction for any leader, any marketer, heck, any parent, really. It shifts the focus from competitive scarcity to abundant possibility.
Well said. And finally, Aristotle recognized the sheer power of figurative language, metaphors specifically.
Ah, yes.
He states that metaphor is the most powerful element in poetry and in speech as well, offering clarity, pleasure, and unfamiliarity. It makes ideas more vivid, more memorable, more digestible.
How does he illustrate that?
He uses subtle distinctions. For instance, saying that someone begging is praying or that someone praying is begging because both are petitioners.
Ah, okay. Both are asking, but the framing changes the whole perception. The power dynamic shifts.
Completely. Or a more modern-sounding example from the text, how pirates nowadays call themselves procurement specialists.
Oh, okay, that still works today.
Right. It highlights how framing through metaphor can soften, dignify, or completely change how we perceive an action or a group. It subtly influences how we feel about it.
Okay, so if Aristotle gave us the fundamental ingredients, the core principles of persuasion, then Cicero and Quintilian, they kind of showed us how to become master chefs, right?
That's a great analogy.
They added layers of practical application, psychological insight, stuff that's incredibly valuable even now. They really moved from the abstract theory to the nitty-gritty of how you actually train, practice, and deliver a truly impactful message.
They absolutely did. Cicero, in his work De Orator, offers this truly comprehensive view of what it takes to be a skilled orator. It's way beyond just speaking well.
Okay.
He stresses this view from Crassus that eloquence is dependent upon the trained skill of highly educated men and requires speaking ornately and copiously on any given subject.
Ornate and copious. It sounds fancy.
Well, it wasn't just about being superficial or using big words. It was about genuine depth and breadth of knowledge. Cicero argues that a great orator needs this huge range of knowledge, things like public affairs, laws, morals, justice, and a deep empathetic understanding of human nature and character.
Wow. So it profoundly challenges the modern idea that you can just wing it or speak effectively on any topic without real expertise or a well-rounded education.
Exactly. To be ornate and copious meant being able to approach a subject from many angles with rich detail, compelling arguments, not just being wordy.
And he has a fascinating caveat about pure philosophy, doesn't he? Something about it being for leisure.
Yes. Cicero suggests philosophers' books are for Tusculani, basically for leisure reading and abstract thought, because, and this is the key part, those which he thought ought to be said about justice were so far removed from the custom of life and the customs of states.
Ah, so philosophy can be too detached from reality.
That's his point. It grounds rhetoric firmly in reality. The orator isn't just dealing with abstract ideals, they're dealing with the messy, practical realities of human affairs, politics, law. The orator has to adapt their message to the real world, to what people actually do and believe, not just some idealized version.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that leads directly to his emphasis on adapting to the audience. A truly effective orator, Cicero says, must sagaciously investigate what his fellow citizens think, feel, opine, expect.
So deep audience research.
Absolutely. It's not enough to have a brilliant speech in isolation. You have to know your audience intimately. The orator must, as he puts it, hold the veins of every kind, age, order of people, understand their unique concerns, their motivations.
Wow, hold the veins. That's vivid.
Isn't it? It requires an almost psychological understanding of diverse groups in society. You can't use the same approach for a young audience as you would for elders or for a general crowd versus, say, a panel of judges. It's about tailoring your message not just to the topic, but specifically to the people listening.
That is a huge, actionable lesson for anyone trying to communicate effectively today. It's all about empathy and tailoring your message, recognizing that one size rarely, if ever, fits all.
Totally.
Then we get Quintilian in his Institutio Oratoria. He takes us right into the practical training of the speaker, right?
Yeah.
How you actually develop these skills.
He does, and what really stands out to me is his advice for young learners. It's quite surprising.
How so?
He encourages a certain luxuriance of mind in ambitious effort and an ardor that leads at times to ideas bordering on the extravagant.
Luxuriance. Extravagant. Sounds like he wants them to be over the top.
Kind of. He makes this rather surprising statement. Exuberance is easily remedied, but barrenness is incurable.
Wow. So better to have too much creativity than too little.
That's exactly his point,
Yeah.
especially compared to how we often teach today. Quintilian is essentially saying, let young minds run wild, let them be excessive, let them experiment and dare to be unconventional.
Because you can always edit later.
Exactly. You can always prune back and overgrowth refine and focus a mind that has too many ideas. But you can't make something grow where nothing exists. A barren mind is far harder to cultivate. He even quotes Cicero to back this up. I would have the youthful mind run riot in the luxuriance of its growth.
That is a surprising fact when we often prioritize correctness and precision right from the start, rather than encouraging bold, even extravagant creativity.
Which is, in fact, the wellspring of true eloquence, he'd argue.
Okay, interesting. And then there's his unexpected thing about music, right? Why does an orator need music?
Yeah, it's fascinating. He's not talking about the, quote, emasculated modern music he kind of criticizes,
Okay.
but the music of old, which was employed to sing the praises of brave men. He even mentions Pythagoras using music to calm young men who were led astray by passions.
So it connects to emotional control
Yeah,
and maybe rhythm.
exactly. Rhythm, cadence, harmony, things essential for compelling delivery. It suggests that it's not just about the words you say, but the musicality of your speech, the flow, the pauses, the emotional impact that a well-tuned voice can achieve.
The whole performance matters.
Indeed. And Quintilian also heavily emphasizes the need for improvisation and quick thinking, especially in the heat of a debate.
Thinking on your feet.
Yes. He notes that debate does not admit of arrangement, has little need for the embellishments of style, and makes no large demand on memory or delivery. It's all about immediate attack and defense, being ready for surprise attacks.
So mental agility is key.
Hugely. It demands agility of mind, not just a prepared script. But he also advises against unscrupulous violence in debate.
Like personal attack.
Yeah, because it makes an unpleasant impression on the judge. And he also warns against fighting for points which you cannot prove.
No one to fold them.
Pretty much. In a debate, knowing when to concede gracefully, when to press an advantage, and crucially, how to maintain your integrity under fire that's as important as any single argument. It's a strategic dance, not just a verbal slugfest.
Which brings us back, kind of full circle, to that core principle of character, doesn't it? Ethos again.
It really does. Quintilian ultimately believes that a good orator should be a good man skilled in speaking.
A good man. Okay.
Yes, the language is of its time, but the principle holds. This isn't just about technical skill. He argues it requires a thorough study of all the workings of nature and forms his character on the precepts of philosophy.
So for Quintilian, rhetoric isn't just a toolkit for winning arguments.
No, it's fundamentally a moral endeavor. Your integrity, your ethical foundation are inseparable from your persuasive power. A truly great speaker isn't just someone who talks well, but someone whose words are rooted in genuine virtue. Okay, so if ancient rhetoric teaches us primarily how to, sway others, modern insights reveal an even more powerful canvas for persuasion, our own minds.
The internal landscape.
Exactly, and this raises a really important question. How much control do we truly have over that inner landscape?
Yeah, that's the big one.
And the answer, according to these sources we're looking at, is far, far more than many of us typically realize. We are, in a really profound sense, the architects of our own internal world. A central figure in this modern understanding of self-mastery has to be Earl Nightingale, and his profound concept of the strangest secret.
Ah, yes, a classic.
It really is. And the core idea is so simple, yet truly revolutionary in its implications. We become what we think about.
Straightforward, but deep.
It's not just presented as, like, a motivational slogan. He presents it as a fundamental, inescapable law of human experience, as constant as gravity.
And he uses that incredible farmer analogy to make it so vividly clear, doesn't he?
He does. It's brilliant. Nightingale says, suppose a farmer had some land, and it's good, fertile land. Now the land gives the farmer a choice. He may plant in that land whatever he chooses. The land doesn't care.
Okay, the land is neutral.
Right. Then he connects this directly to our minds.
Yeah.
Because the mind, like the land, doesn't care what you plant in it. It will return what you plant, but it doesn't care what you plant. He continues. Now let's say that the farmer has two seeds in his hand. One is a seed of corn, the other a nightshade, a deadly poison. He plants both seeds, waters, and takes care of the land. What will happen?
Both will grow.
Invariably, the land will return what is planted. The human mind is far more fertile, far more incredible and mysterious than the land, but it works the same way. It doesn't care what we plant. Success, failure, a concrete, worthwhile goal, or confusion.
Wow. That really hammers home the immense, almost frightening responsibility we have for our thoughts if your mind is constantly tending to weeds of doubt or negativity.
That's what will inevitably grow. That's the harvest you'll get. It's a powerful metaphor for self-authorship, putting the responsibility squarely on us.
It really is.
And Les Brown reinforces this idea, but from his own life experience. He describes how, despite growing up in a really tough, poverty-stricken environment, he had this subconscious conviction that I was going to be somebody, and a constant fantasy was charting my path to greatness. And this internal belief allowed him to resist negative influences around him, like drugs and crime.
So his inner world protected him.
In a way, yes. He states, my consciousness became an active force. It shows how a strong internal narrative, an unwavering belief in your future, can act as this powerful, protective, and guiding force, even when external adversity is profound.
It wasn't just passive wishing then.
No, it was an internal, deliberate act of creation. He was actively directing his mental energy.
And Zig Ziglar gives us an even more dramatic illustration of this self-image transformation, right? With the story of Viktor Serebryakov.
Oh, that's a fantastic story.
Viktor was told he was a dunce at 15, and sadly, he acted like one for 17 years. Just doing odd jobs, living way below his potential.
Just accepted the label.
Completely. Then, at age 32, he gets an evaluation, some kind of test, and it reveals he was a genius with an IQ of 161.
Whoa! So what happened?
Get this. He started acting like a genius. Since that time, he has written books, secured a number of patents, and has become a successful businessman. He even became chairman of the International Mensa Society.
That's incredible. So his entire reality shifted.
Because his internal belief system changed. It's not just about raw intelligence. It's about the profound, almost unbelievable impact of self-belief on your entire reality.
That is a truly remarkable story. It underscores how deeply our self-perception can dictate our capabilities and our outcomes. It reveals how often we live within these self-imposed limits based on past labels or experiences.
Totally.
And Ziglar emphasizes the critical lesson from this. Once you accept yourself, it will no longer be a matter of life or death for others to accept you.
That's liberation right there.
Isn't it? When your self-worth comes from within, when you are the ultimate judge of your own value, you're just no longer dependent on external validation. And that frees up an enormous amount of mental and emotional energy for constructive action, for reaching your potential, instead of constantly chasing approval. Hashtag 2.2, mastering your inner dialogue and focus.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us, practically speaking? If our minds are this powerful, if our self-image can literally reshape our capabilities, how do we actively steer them? How do we guide them towards growth and away from what Les Brown calls false expectations appeared real? Those learned fears and limiting beliefs that just cripple us.
Right. How do we become the intentional architects of our inner world rather than just passive inhabitants drifting along?
Exactly.
This is where someone like Tony Robbins comes in, offering really practical strategies from his works like Awaken the Giant Within and Unlimited Power.
Okay.
He emphasizes that beliefs act as filters for our perceptions and direct commands to our nervous system. And crucially, they have the power to create and the power to destroy.
Filters and commands. That's powerful framing.
It is. And he points out that we rarely question our long-held beliefs, right? The ones we've inherited or absorbed unconsciously. Yet all of our actions are the result of our beliefs.
So if you want to change your actions.
Yeah. You have to dig down and change the underlying beliefs that are driving everything. Your behavior, your results, even your emotional state.
And he gives us actual tools for this, like transformational vocabulary. I love this one.
It's incredibly practical, isn't it?
Totally. The idea that by consciously changing the habitual words we use to describe our experiences, you can instantly lower or increase my intensity about virtually anything.
Give us the example he uses.
The classic one is someone changing "I'm having a problem" to something like "I'm having a breakthrough" or "I'm facing a challenge." It's a subtle shift in language, but it completely alters their emotional state, right?
Absolutely. It changes their perception of a situation, transforms their internal reality. Instead of feeling defeated, they feel empowered, curious. It's literally like a hack for your emotional state.
A tiny change with potentially huge impact.
It's an incredibly actionable nugget of wisdom for just daily life. Robbins also discusses submodalities.
Okay, what are those? Sounds technical.
A little, but the concept is simple. They are the specific characteristics of our internal representations, such as brightness, size, and distance. Basically, how we store information internally, the mental images, sounds, feelings we create.
Right, like the qualities of our thoughts.
Exactly. And he advises, for example, not to make your problems big, bright, and close in your mind's eye.
Why not?
Because that will only intensify the negative emotions associated with them. It makes the problem feel overwhelming. Conversely, you can consciously shrink or dim negative images to reduce their impact.
And make positive images vivid.
Make them vivid, large, bright, close up. This is literally about how we run our brain, giving us direct control over our internal experience.
So it's like being the director of your own internal movie.
Yeah.
Actively managing how we represent our experiences internally.
Precisely. And beyond managing the present, Robbins stresses the vital importance of having a compelling future.
A vision.
A powerful one. He says that a compelling future creates a dynamic sense of growth. Without this, we're only half alive. He even quotes Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Wow. So it's not just about setting vague goals?
No, it's about creating a vivid, emotionally inspiring vision of what's possible, something that powerfully pulls you forward, energizing your present actions.
And he gives advice on how to make those goals actually work.
Yes, really clear, actionable advice for refining goals to make them truly effective. Things like making them specific, stating them positively, engaging all senses in their description, ensuring they are self-initiated.
Meaning you control whether they happen.
Right, and checking that they are ecologically sound, beneficial to oneself and others.
So they don't harm you or anyone else in the process.
Exactly. It's a comprehensive approach that ensures goals are not only motivating but also sustainable and aligned with broader values. Prevents unintended negative consequences down the road.
That makes sense.
And Les Brown, in his work Fix Your Focus, echoes this need for strategic thinking. He suggests having a 3 to 5 year strategy for achieving significant goals.
Thinking longer term.
Yes. And he adds this really powerful idea. If you work with a problem long enough, it will begin to reveal its solutions to you.
Ooh, I like that. It's not just about banging your head against the wall.
No, it's about active engagement, persistence, and a kind of trust in the process of discovery. The answer might emerge if you stick with it.
That's a great reminder that persistence is undeniably key, and often the answer isn't immediately obvious. You have to wrestle with it.
You do. And Zig Ziglar also emphasizes the importance of consistent daily effort, particularly setting daily objectives.
Small steps.
Exactly. He says, the opportunity for greatness does not come cascading down like a torrential Niagara Falls, but rather it comes slowly, one drop at a time.
So forget waiting for the big break.
Pretty much. This shifts the focus from waiting for some overwhelming grand gesture or a single lucky moment to the quiet, cumulative power of consistent, incremental progress. It's about showing up every single day, taking those small steps, and trusting that those drops will eventually fill a bucket and then maybe a river. So this naturally raises an important question, doesn't it? If our thoughts and beliefs are so potent, if our internal landscape is so influential, what about our external circumstances?
Right. Are we just products of our environment? Or do we really have the power to rise above it, to transcend it?
Les Brown offers a really radical, empowering, and almost defiant answer to that.
Yeah. What does he say?
He famously says people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances.
He doesn't believe in circumstances.
Wow. He continues, the people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, make them.
Make them. That's incredibly inspiring. It suggests our agency isn't limited by external conditions, but more by our will, our imagination, our resourcefulness.
Exactly. He's essentially saying, stop being a victim of your situation, become the creator of it.
That's a pretty radical statement, though. Les Brown essentially saying circumstances don't exist or don't matter. Does that fully resonate? I mean, surely there are limits to how much we can make our circumstances, especially when facing truly overwhelming odds.
It's definitely a strong challenge to conventional thinking, absolutely. And yes, of course, there are undeniable external factors, massive systemic issues, but I think his core point is about our response to those factors, our internal stance.
Okay, focusing on what we can control.
Right. And Zig Ziglar provides this striking anecdote that illustrates this perfectly. The Detroit auto strike.
Okay, I remember this one.
You'd think a major strike halting production in a key industry would absolutely cripple a real estate agent's business in that area, right?
Yeah, logically, no one's got money, everyone's worried.
But one agent saw it completely differently. She saw it as an astonishing opportunity. She reportedly said, business is fantastic.
Fantastic. During a strike? How?
Her logic was, for the first time in months, these people have plenty of time to go shopping for the home of their dreams. They know they can buy a home cheaper right now than they will ever be able to buy one again.
Whoa. She completely reframed it.
Totally. She wasn't blaming the strike. She was making her circumstances, reframing the adversity into a unique selling proposition. She even supposedly wished for the strike to continue a few more weeks as she could close out her year strong.
That's a phenomenal example of reframing a crisis into an opportunity and actively taking control. It's about shifting your perception and proactively seeking solutions where others only see obstacles.
Exactly. And Tony Robbins ties this into his idea of stepping out of the Skinnerian box.
Skinnerian box, like the psychologist B.F. Skinner.
Precisely. It refers to that concept from behavioral psychology where organisms are conditioned to just react to external stimuli. They become passive responders to their environment, like Pavlov's dogs salivating at the bell.
Okay, so we just react without thinking.
Robbins argues that to truly take control and create higher meaning in our lives, we have to stop continually reacting like animals in a lab experiment.
How do we do that?
We have to consciously choose our responses, actively shape our experience, assign our own meanings to events rather than just accepting the default negative reaction. It's about moving from automatic reaction to deliberate creation, taking back the reins of our own psychology.
Okay, so now that we've really dug into the inner game, how to master our own minds, craft our personal realities, let's turn our attention outwards again.
Right, connecting with others.
Exactly. If we're going to truly influence others, if we want to lead, persuade, inspire, we need a really profound understanding of their deepest needs, their wants, their motivation.
What makes them tick?
Yeah. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Because so much of what drives us is actually universal. It transcends time, culture.
Dale Carnegie, in his absolute classic How to Win Friends and Influence People, identified this fundamental human craving. He argues it's almost always overlooked, yet supremely powerful.
Okay, what is it?
He states that while most of our basic wants, food, sleep, money, even sexual gratification are often met, at least to some degree, but there is one longing almost as deep, almost as imperious, as the desire for food or sleep, which is seldom gratified.
Okay, I'm hooked. What is it?
It is what Freud calls the desire to be great. It is what Dewey calls the desire to be important, William James said. The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated.
The craving to be appreciated. to feel important.
That's the core insight. People desperately want to feel important, valued, appreciated. It's this deep-seated psychological need that when you acknowledge it, when you meet it in others, it unlocks incredible influence.
That makes so much sense. It explains so much about human behavior, right? From seeking status to just wanting a like on social media.
Absolutely. And from this core principle, Carnegie draws a really crucial conclusion about how not to influence people.
Which is?
The utter futility of criticism.
Don't criticize.
He highlights Abraham Lincoln's lesson, learn the hard way, that sharp criticisms and rebukes almost invariably end in futility. It just doesn't work in the long run.
Why not?
People get defensive, their resentment builds up, preventing any real positive change. And fundamentally, it damages relationships, which are the absolute bedrock of any lasting influence.
So Lincoln learned this himself.
Through bitter experience, yes. Apparently, after publishing a really scathing anonymous letter that deeply offended a fellow officer early in his career. That incident taught him the profound importance of tact and empathy.
Wow.
It's said that Theodore Roosevelt even kept a large painting of Lincoln above his desk in the White House. And when he faced a perplexing problem, he'd apparently look up at it and ask himself, what would Lincoln do if he were in my shoes? How would he solve this problem?
That suggests a legacy of thoughtful, non-confrontational problem solving, deeply rooted in understanding human nature.
Exactly.
And Lincoln himself became a master of diplomacy, right? Showing how to give feedback without destroying the relationship. Carnegie shares that example of how Lincoln handled General Hooker.
Oh yeah, Hooker had been openly critical, even insubordinate.
Right. But Lincoln didn't just lambaste him. Instead, he wrote him a letter, starting with something like, there are some things in regard to which I'm not quite satisfied with you.
Notice the phrasing. Some things, not, I'm not satisfied with you.
Exactly. So subtle. He then praised Hooker's known military skills before gently mentioning his concerns about his attitude and ambition. It's just a masterclass in giving critical feedback by first affirming the person's value, tact, and diplomacy, even when dealing with serious faults.
And this craving for importance, for significance, it actually extends beyond just individual compliments or avoiding criticism. It touches on how we, as humans, connect to a larger purpose, a why that resonates really deeply and inspires loyalty, commitment, even sacrifice.
And this is where Simon Sinek's start with why comes in,
Yep,
right?
exactly. And it's such a game changer for understanding leadership and influence in the modern world. He makes this incredibly compelling case that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
The Apple example is probably the most famous one he uses.
It's perfect for illustrating it. Sinek explains that Apple's ability to consistently design innovative products and command this astounding loyalty, it doesn't just come from what they make, computers, phones.
So where does it come from?
It's because their core belief, their WHY, is all about challenging the status quo, thinking differently, empowering the individual. People who buy Apple products aren't just buying a gadget. They're buying into that shared belief, that WHY.
They're kind of signaling something about themselves.
Precisely. They're telling the world, I align with innovation and individuality.
And this isn't just for, like, big tech giants, right?
Not at all. Sinek details Southwest Airlines' remarkable success story. Southwest didn't invent the low-cost airline model, but they were built, as he says, to champion a cause.
What was their cause?
Specifically, the freedom to fly for everyone, democratizing air travel, making it accessible. Customers felt that Southwest was a company that spoke directly to them and directly for them.
Wow.
More importantly, he adds, they felt that flying Southwest said something about who they were as people.
That's incredibly powerful. Loyalty based on a shared belief, a connection to the company's purpose, not just the price or the features.
It really is, and the contrast is so striking when you look at TiVo.
TiVo. What happened there? They had great tech.
Exactly. Sinek points out TiVo had a technologically superior product, pausing live TV, recording shows easily, skipping commercials, all revolutionary at the time. Yet, it failed to gain mass appeal initially.
Why? If the tech was so good?
Yeah, because they focused relentlessly on what the product did, features, and rational benefits. They led with the features, and the market responded with confusion and apathy. Sinek sums up the reaction as, I don't understand it. I don't need it. I don't like it. You're scaring me.
Ouch. So it lacked that emotional connection, that clear why that would have made people understand why they needed to fundamentally change their TV viewing habits.
Precisely. Without a compelling purpose, features alone often just don't inspire action or loyalty.
That is a crucial lesson for any business, any leader, any movement, really.
It really is. And Sinek provides this wonderfully practical tool for applying this why in daily decision making. He calls it the celery test.
The celery test. Okay, explain.
He says, imagine you go to a dinner party and somebody comes up to you and says, you know what you need in your organization, M&Ms. Somebody else comes up and says, you know what you need, rice milk. But if your WAY, your core purpose, is to be healthy, you only need celery.
Okay, got it.
It's a simple metaphor that shows how to filter actions and decisions through your core purpose. If a new idea, a potential project, even a personal goal doesn't align with your fundamental WHY.
Then it's irrelevant, no matter how good or tempting it sounds on its own.
Exactly. It provides a simple litmus test for alignment. Does this fit our purpose, or is it just M&Ms when we're trying to be healthy? Hashtag 3.3. Practical strategies for building rapport and influence.
Okay, so how do we actually translate these big ideas, understanding that fundamental human craving for importance, the power of why, into our everyday interactions?
Right. How do we become those people who can genuinely connect and influence rather than just manipulate or, simply give orders? This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Carnegie gives us a fantastic example of what he calls arousing an eager want.
Arousing an eager want, okay.
He tells the story of a sales manager named Mike. Mike had a problem with one of his station managers not keeping the place clean, which was hurting sales.
So what did Mike do? Just tell him to clean up?
No, he tried that, and apparently all his talking and discussion hadn't helped. So instead, Mike changed tactics. He appealed to the manager's own aspirations. He showed him pictures of modern, successful stations.
Showing him what's possible.
Exactly. By arousing an eager want in the manager, by showing him the modern station, he had accomplished his goal, and both the manager and Mike benefited. Mike tapped into the manager's pride, his desire for success, his aspiration for a better-looking station. He connected the desired action, cleaning up, to the manager's own self-interest.
And it worked where direct criticism failed.
Completely. It demonstrates that telling people what to do is far less effective than making them want to do it by aligning the action with their existing desires.
That's a game changer for anyone in leadership, sales. Heck, even trying to get your kids to clean their room.
Chuckles, probably. And then there's the incredibly undervalued power of listening.
Yeah.
Genuinely listening and asking good questions.
Right. We think influence is about talking, but maybe it's more about listening.
Carnegie certainly thought so. He offers the story of Edward Sykes, a sales representative. Sykes saved a crucial account not by arguing or making demands.
How did he save it?
By first talking to the unimportant people, the soda clerks, the sales clerks, to really understand the situation from the ground up. And then, crucially, by genuinely listening to the upset owner, letting him vent, making him feel truly valued and heard.
So the owner felt understood.
Exactly. His concerns were acknowledged. The relationship was salvaged simply because someone finally listened without interrupting or defending.
Wow.
Another powerful anecdote is about a Mr. Naffel. He was facing a really tough, busy executive. Naffel asked for precisely 1 minute of his time.
Just 1 minute. Did he get it?
He did, but he ended up talking with the executive for exactly 1 hour and 47 minutes.
Whoa. What happened?
Naffel mostly listened. The executive, feeling truly heard and understood, apparently said afterward that Naffel had changed my whole mental attitude. It highlights how deep, active listening can open doors and build rapport far beyond any prepared speech or logical argument.
Incredible.
And Nightingale also emphasizes this. He says, questions are the creative acts of the intelligent. He advocates for using open-ended questions, leveraging the 6 W's, H and I technique.
Who, what, when, where, why, which, how, and if.
That's the one. He quotes Rudyard Kipling. I had 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Open-ended questions are the keys to unlocking deeper understanding and genuine dialogue, not just yes-no answers.
It makes so much sense when you think about it. A yes-no question gets a short answer. An open-ended question invites dialogue, encourages the other person to elaborate, makes them feel heard.
Absolutely. And Nightingale also gives us that simple, profound piece of wisdom. Each of us has 2 ears and 1 mouth, and it seems to be a good idea to do twice as much listening as talking.
2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them in proportion.
Right. And he mentions an old Texas friend used to say, you ain't learning nothing while you're talking.
Blunt, but true.
It's a stark reminder that true learning and connection come from active, empathetic listening, not just dominating the conversation.
Okay, so listen more, ask better questions. What else?
Beyond just listening, empathy and a sense of fair play are critical. President Taft apparently discovered the enormous chemical value of sympathy in neutralizing the acid of hard feelings.
The chemical value of sympathy.
Yeah.
Interesting phrase.
Isn't it? He found that expressing understanding, acknowledging others' perspectives, putting yourself in their shoes, it could de-escalate even the most tense situations. It's not necessarily about agreeing with them.
But about understanding their viewpoint, seeing where they're coming from.
Exactly.
And that story about Mr. Thomas collecting a past due bill is just a masterclass in this compassionate influence, this appeal to fair play.
It really is. Remind us how he handled it.
Instead of demanding payment up front, he explained he'd called to find out what it was the company had done or failed to do that might have caused the delay or the problem.
So he started by taking potential responsibility.
Yes, he made it clear he had no opinion to offer until he'd heard the customer's full story. He even conceded that the company was not infallible. Then he just listened.
Let the customer talk.
He listened with all the interest and sympathy the customer expected. Only after fully understanding the situation did he gently appeal to the customer's sense of fair play. He essentially said, "Look, I trust you to be fair."
And put the ball in the customer's court?
Exactly. He told the customer, "I am going to leave it all up to you. Whatever you say goes."
Wow. That takes guts. And trust.
Right. But it's not just about getting the bill paid. It's about preserving dignity, building trust, and turning a potentially adversarial situation into a collaborative solution. It's a genuinely ethical approach to influence.
That's beautifully put. And finally, Tony Robbins introduces some more sophisticated psychological tools like modeling behavior for success.
Modeling, like copying successful people.
Essentially, yes. It involves replicating the behaviors, belief systems, and physiology of successful individuals. It's presented as a shortcut to mastery learning from those who've already achieved what you desire, rather than going through endless trial and error yourself.
Reverse engineering success.
Kind of, yeah.
And he also delves into meta-programs, right? What are those again?
Metaprograms are the internal patterns that shape how individuals process information. They're like our default mental filters.
Okay. Can you give examples?
Key ones include toward versus away from. Are people primarily motivated by achieving positive outcomes, moving toward pleasure or goals, or by avoiding negative consequences, moving away from pain or problems?
Okay. Carrot versus stick motivation.
Sort of. And another is internal versus external frame of reference. Do people rely mainly on their own internal standards and sense of achievement, or do they primarily seek external validation and feedback?
Right. Do they judge themselves or need others to judge them?
Exactly. And Robbins argues that tailoring your communication to match someone's meta-programs can significantly enhance your effectiveness. You're literally speaking their innate mental language.
So if you're trying to persuade someone who's motivated away from problems,
You'd frame your solution primarily in terms of how it prevents those negative outcomes rather than just focusing on the positive gains it offers.
got it. Meet them where they are mentally.
Precisely. And a great real-world example of applying empathy and understanding is that debt collection company, Harbridge.
A debt collector using empathy. Sounds unusual.
It was their core principle. They were apparently built on the WHY that everyone has a story and everyone deserves to be listened to. Their agents focused first on establishing rapport, learning the debtor's circumstances, understanding their motivations and challenges.
Instead of just demanding money.
Exactly. And this human-centered approach led to significantly greater success in debt recovery than companies that just used badgering tactics. It demonstrated the profound power of empathy and connection, even in a really challenging industry. Okay, so if we combine this mastery of self-understanding our own beliefs, our motivations, our internal architecture, with the ethical ability to influence others, we start to see how individuals can actually drive monumental world-shifting change.
Moving beyond personal success to broader impact.
Exactly. And this raises a really important question. What's truly at the heart of those movements that profoundly shift society? What sustains people? What inspires collective action, even in the face of immense challenges? Hashtag 4.1, the power of purpose and collective action.
Well, when you think about truly transformative movements, probably the first thing that comes to mind for many is Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech.
A quintessential example.
And Simon Sinek offers such a brilliant insight into why it was so powerfully effective, connecting it back to his why.
What does he say?
He points out, it wasn't the details of his plans that earned him the right to lead. It was what he believed and his ability to communicate it clearly that people followed.
Okay.
People followed him not because of his idea of a changed America, People followed him because of their idea of a changed America.
Ah, that's a profound distinction, isn't it?
It really is. It shows how a truly great leader doesn't just impose a vision from the top down. Instead, they articulate and amplify a shared belief that already exists within people, giving it voice, clarity, and direction.
So King tapped into something already there.
Exactly. His words like, "We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream," resonated so deeply because they tapped into this profoundly held moral conviction within his audience, a why that transcended individual needs and called for collective action towards a greater shared good.
He didn't offer a 10-point policy plan on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
No. He offered a unifying vision of a better future that people could see themselves fighting for, could feel in their bones.
That makes sense. And speaking of moral convictions, Kurt Vonnegut, in his own uniquely blunt and beautiful way, offers a kind of foundational principle for how we should interact in the world. It can serve as a powerful moral compass for all influence.
Oh, I love Vonnegut. What's the rule?
There's only one rule I know of. God damn it, you've got to be kind.
Chuckles. Simple. Direct. Powerful.
Isn't it? He even adds that being merciful, it seems to me, is the only good idea we have had so far.
Wow. So kindness and mercy is the bedrock.
He presents it that way. It's not about being naive or weak. It's about recognizing kindness and mercy as the ultimate, most constructive goals for human interaction. It grounds all persuasive efforts in a broader ethical framework. It's almost a radical call for compassion in what can often be a very harsh world.
It provides a necessary human dimension to all this talk of influence and persuasion.
I think so too. And Tara Grove highlights a surprising fact that further emphasizes the power of acting on these principles, acting beyond pure self-interest.
Was the fact
That abolitionists were the first people to create a national and global movement to defend the rights of those they did not know.
the first? That's incredible.
Think about it. Before them, movements were typically about defending your own group, your own rights. They filed grievances on behalf of the abstract ideal of freedom and justice itself. Not for personal gain, but purely for a principle affecting others.
People they'd never met, maybe never would meet.
Exactly. And this radical act of empathy and justice was met, at the time, with incredulity. They were called liberals, progressives, do-gooders, meddlers, and activists. That sound familiar? Precisely because they were challenging the status quo for others' sake.
For those they had no direct personal connection to.
Yes. It just demonstrates the immense power of collective action when it's driven by a shared, compassionate purpose that transcends individual gain. A why so profound it compelled people to act for strangers against enormous resistance. Hashtag tag 4.2, living an examined life and shaping the future.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and I think deeply personal for all of us listening. If we have these powerful tools, tools of persuasion, tools of self-mastery, what's our responsibility? How do we use them in shaping our own stories, our own lives, and maybe by extension, the broader narrative of society itself?
Right. How do we apply these profound insights to live a truly conscious, impactful, and ethically grounded life? It's a big question.
It really is.
Martha Nussbaum, who is quoted by Tara Grove, emphasizes 3 capacities essential to the survival and progress of democracy. The first one, and maybe the most crucial for us as individuals, is the capacity for critical examination of oneself and one's traditions, for living what, following Socrates, we may call the examined life.
The examined life, what does that entail?
It means refusing to accept beliefs simply because they're traditional or habitual or just comfortable. It demands actively questioning everything, subjecting our most deeply held assumptions to scrutiny.
Even the uncomfortable ones.
Especially the uncomfortable ones, and accepting only those beliefs that survive reason's demand for consistency and for justification. Nussbaum notes that Socrates saw himself as a gadfly on the back of a noble but sluggish horse, constantly stinging democracy to wake it up, to make it conduct its business more reflectively, more critically.
So it's about constant self-assessment, intellectual rigor, and having the courage to challenge our own mental defaults.
That's a great summary. Profound intellectual honesty, really. Not just accepting narratives, especially the ones we tell ourselves, but rigorously interrogating them.
And then there's that powerful, almost poetic idea about creating your own story. Grove's collection includes this insight. Let's see if I can find it. Here. You are your own stories, and therefore free to imagine what it takes to remain human with no resources. Although you don't have complete control of the story of your life, you can still create that story. It also means you can invent the language to say who you are and how you mean in this world.
That's incredibly empowering, isn't it?
It really is. It reminds us that even if we can't control every single plot twist, every external circumstance that hits us, we absolutely can define the theme, the narrative, the meaning of our lives. We get to decide what kind of hero or protagonist we choose to be in our own story.
And that ties directly into what Grove calls the obligation of hope.
The obligation of hope, not just like a nice feeling.
No, she frames it much stronger than that. It's not a passive sentiment or some kind of naive optimism. She states, hope isn't a choice, it's a moral obligation, it's a human obligation, it's an obligation to the cells in your body.
Wow.
Hope, in this view, isn't some fragile thing that shatters in the dark. Rather, it grapples endlessly with despair and is actually at home in darkness. But, she warns, lose your hope and you lose your soul.
That perspective frames hope as an active, vital force that we are morally bound to cultivate, especially when times are tough.
Exactly. It's an act of defiance against cynicism, a continuous commitment to possibility, even when the odds seem completely stacked against us.
That's a profound thought to carry forward, truly. An active, ongoing commitment. And it kind of culminates in that beautiful rabbinical teaching that Grove shares, right? The one that distills all these ideas into a single provocative image.
Yes, the tree planting one. It's wonderful.
Remind us.
There is a rabbinical teaching that says, if the world is ending and the Messiah arrives, first plant a tree and then see if the story is true.
First, plant the tree.
First, plant the tree. This isn't about blind optimism or ignoring reality. It's about persistent, constructive action, regardless of the external circumstances, regardless of the apparent hopelessness of the situation.
Keep building, keep nurturing.
Exactly. It underscores the importance of continuing to contribute, even when the world seems to be falling apart around you. Because that act of planting, that act of hope, is itself an act of self-mastery. And it's a profound influence on whatever future might come. Hashtag tag tag outro. So what really stands out here when you look across all these brilliant minds, from ancient Greece to modern psychology, it's how deeply intertwined the ability to persuade others is with the capacity for self-mastery.
They really go hand in hand.
They really do. From Aristotle's timeless appeals to character, logic, and emotion, right through to Sinek's powerful emphasis on the start with why, Carnegie's insight into that universal craving to be appreciated, and Nightingale's profound observation that we become what we think about. There's this consistent, undeniable thread running through it all.
What would you say that thread is?
I think it's about intentionality. It's about understanding human nature both within ourselves and in others. And it's about grounding our actions, our influence, in a clear, ethical purpose.
Yes, absolutely. This whole deep dive really shows us that influence isn't just about, grand speeches or clever marketing tricks.
Yeah.
It's woven into the daily choices we make, in our thoughts, our words, our actions. It's about diligently planting the right seeds in our own minds, like Nightingale said. It's about understanding the why behind what truly drives us and others. And it's about committing to that examined life where we continuously learn, adapt, question ourselves, and actively make our circumstances rather than just blaming them.
It's an active, ongoing process.
Totally. A process of self-creation and outward contribution that shapes not just our individual lives, but potentially the collective future as well.
So you now have, hopefully, a really comprehensive understanding of how to be a more effective persuader and also a more conscious architect of your own life. You've got the tools to understand human motivation, to connect more deeply, and to guide your own inner world more deliberately.
Yeah.
But perhaps the most enduring lesson, the takeaway from all these diverse sources, is this. Given the immense power we have, the power to shape our own reality and to influence those around us, the true measure of our success isn't just what we achieve externally.
What is it then?
It's who we become in the process and what positive purpose we ultimately choose to serve beyond ourselves. So the final question for you is, what kind of person will you become with this profound knowledge? And using these tools ethically and wisely, what kind of world will you help to make?